We need to talk about ideas, good ones and bad ones. We need to learn stuff about the world. We need an honest, intelligent, thought-provoking, and entertaining review of what the hell happened on this planet in the last 7 days. We need to sit back and listen to the Iron Fist and the Velvet Glove.
We're back, dear listener. Episode 480 of the Iron Fist and the Velvet Glove, closing in on that 500 number. I'm Trevor, a.k.a. the Iron Fist, over there in regional Queensland. Scott the Velvet Glove. How are you, Scott?
Good, thanks, Trevor. G'day, Joe. G'day, Trevor. G'day, listeners. I hope everyone's doing well.
And with us formerly the seat of, what's his name? I've forgotten his name already.
Peter Dutton.
Peter Dutton. He's gone.
Potato Head.
Yes. Joe, the tech guy. How are you, Joe?
I'm surviving. Evening all.
Yes. Joe had a few technical problems last week.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked out what the problem was, Joe.
Yeah, the microphone switch was off. That wasn't the only problem, but it was one of many.
It would have been one of the fundamental problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just turn that switch on, dear listener, if you're ever thinking of doing a podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, in the chat room is Don. Good on you, Don. Yeah, if you're in the chat room, say hello. We'll try and incorporate your comments if we can. And, it's on the agenda. Let me see. What is on the agenda? Range of things. Going to talk about the marches around the country, in particular the one in Brisbane. And, just a lot of shenanigans around the world, I think, that we'll get to. But, Scott, let's start.
Yes.
The march in Brisbane, it looked pretty well attended. That's a fairly healthy crowd, it looked like, from the helicopter coverage. Organisers saying somewhere up to 50,000, and based on the images from the helicopters, that probably is about right.
That really wouldn't surprise me. I just looked at it and that sort of stuff. I thought, shit, they got a hell of a lot of people there. It made me feel better about not turning up to it. But anyway, I could have actually done that because I was in Brisbane on the weekend. Anyway, I didn't.
Anyway, a resounding, an important march. I wasn't there either. I was on the Gold Coast. I assume you weren't there either, Joe. We're over here railing. Were you there, Joe?
I had a very long week at work last week, so...
Yeah. There you go. It's not that we're slack. I mean, we're beavering away at a podcast most of the time, so we're allowed that. But Scott, I thought that was an important march. Like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I know.
I think that sends a signal to our political leaders that population cares about this issue when you can get that number of people rocking up. So, very pleasing. I reckon Alison would have been there. Alison's in the chat room, and I reckon Alison would almost sit. So
were the Islamic State recruiters, though.
Yes. Well, you've been reading the Courier Fail, haven't you?
I did see the news.com headlines.
Did they actually say that, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
So I saw it on the I thought I'll watch mainstream Channel 7 News on Sunday night just to see what had happened. And it showed all the images, and I thought, wow, that is a big success. And then as I opened up my electronic copy of the Courier Mail on Monday morning, and I just thought to myself before I started, I thought, how is this propaganda sheet for the Liberal National Party and Sky News going to report this event? I was thinking to myself, will it even make the front page? I thought, what's their angle going to be? And they did not disappoint, dear listener. The Courier Mail.
It did make the front page.
It did in a tiny, little corner piece on the side.
Yeah, it was a column inch. Well, what do you want?
Yeah, and it was also emphasising that somebody was flying a Hamas flag. So it's got the headline. Well, dear listener, the main part of the Courier Mail, the major headline is tragic mum had DVO relating to some court case. That took up a third of the front page. And then of the remaining 2/3, 90% of it was an image of some Broncos footballers, and shock horror, a footballer had, whilst in the in-goal zone and able to score himself, had passed it to his teammate because his teammate hadn't scored a try in a while. That, honestly, Scott, that is the front page of the Courier Mail.
I'm sure to a lot of Queenslanders, that's far more important.
Yes. The day after a significant, one of the biggest marches this city has seen in support of an event that we've all been talking about, and that was the front page of the Courier Mail. A footballer passing the ball when he could have scored himself, and just there you go, like just pathetic Courier Mail. And then, so yeah, the front page is just a little tiny section about there being a march, and then you had to go all the way to page 9 to find a half-page story about it. And the emphasis in the story was how one of the protesters was flying a Hamas flag and the police are out to find this person, and that's the major story as far as the Courier Mail was concerned.
Well, did you see the ABC had done investigative journalism into, apparently, I think it was the Sydney one, some Islamic State recruiter had been there trying to drum up support for Islamic State.
Yeah.
Because they're going, surely amongst this crowd, there's going to be a few we can convert.
Yeah. I mean, the purity test that these people are expecting is if you can gather 50,000 people together and there won't be an odd ratbag amongst them with their own agenda about something.
Oh,
For goodness sake. Just crazy. So that is the sort of, in hindsight, that's exactly what I expected from them. So, yeah. I didn't have any boomer conversations this week. I was actually in a swimming pool and I vaguely heard some boomers talking about basically these people have got to work for themselves and stop relying on the government. And I couldn't go over and join the group. I thought, no, I'm not going there. I left that one alone. So
it's one of those things. I just think to myself that they're going to have to get over themselves once AI becomes their overlord. And they're just going to have to accept that there's going to be a universal basic income for us all.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that AI is going to be anything more than another flash in the pan.
I think I hope you're right. It's just that maybe we've got it as smart as we can get it.
Yeah, I think that's the case. It's going to be one of those things that might make 5% a difference, but at the end of the day, life will carry on much as it did before.
Alison, she would have been there, but her daughter wanted a luncheon party for her 19th birthday. That's a good excuse, Alison.
Very selfish.
It's my birthday tomorrow, gentlemen. 61.
I didn't know it was your birthday, yes.
So that's tomorrow. My son is going to cook me dinner. My wife is baking a cake. Be nice.
Happy birthday, Trevor.
Thank you. And Don says, footy is life. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. As far as the Courier Mail is concerned, when they want a distraction. So, yeah.
Well, you think there's 1 million people in Brisbane and 50,000 turned up at this. So that's 1 in 20. So really, it's not that important.
Oh, hey, if you can get 1 in 20 people to head off to something, that's big. So, yeah. I've been saying on this podcast how the discourse used to be, watch out for those Chinese and Russians, they're evil communists, and how it's changed to they're evil authoritarians. I've sort of been on that sort of thing I've been pushing. Apparently, Rowan Dean on Sky News did not get the memo. So we haven't played any Rowan Dean for a while. But here he is. Just so that you know what's going on over there in Sky News land.
They have to replace Susan Lee. I'm sorry, I've said it before. They have to replace Susan Lee. I'm sorry. She's got to go. You need a hard, strong, aggressive political leader determined to take the fight, determined to destroy the Albanese government, as Rita says, starting today. This bunch of radical communists, even the rest of the world is laughing now at the Albanese government. We need a very strong, determined coalition, opposition. They don't have many seats in Parliament, so they've got to be strong in their conviction. They've got to be strong in their ideas. They've got to be strong in their focus. They've got to slam this government down. This bunch of communists have to be destroyed.
There we go. Communists, twice. Radical communists. The Albanese government, Scott.
And the world is laughing at Albanese.
They haven't learned the lesson of the last election, have they?
Well, we can only hope that it stays that way. They push for them going even further right.
Got to understand that whenever they back someone that's a right-wing lunatic, you've only got to see what happens to their vote.
They just weren't right-wing enough, Scott.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the problem.
But if they go even further right, they're going to end up with less seats.
They weren't strong enough. They didn't have conviction and strength,
Yeah,
Scott.
but you've actually got to look at, that seat that I lived in for years, at Mount Gravatt, Moreton, wasn't it? That was represented by the LNP for years. It's fallen to the Labor Party. The last time it fell was under Rudd.
Peter Dutton was not right-wing enough for these guys.
Well,
he pandered to the left-wing sensibilities. Yeah, they honestly think that.
I know, but they're lunatics because they just think. I just think to myself, you can only get so much done from the opposition crossbenchers, and if they're going to actually continue pushing that far to the right, then they're going to end up with then the ALP will end up with a majority in both houses, and then they'll be screwed.
So you see, what we need is more taxes on the poor.
Yeah, I know, which is one of those things I just don't understand it. Like, it's just that, even Kate Chaney, like she's actually advocating an increase in the GST and also removing all the exemptions from it. And what she actually wants to do is then give everyone a refund. Not everyone, but she says depending on your income level, depends on how much you're going to get refunded. So it's just like she wants to make the GST progressive. I'm still not convinced of it. But it makes a hell of a lot of sense because she says if you get rid of all the exemptions and that type of thing, it just becomes a hell of a lot easier.
Who's saying this?
Kate Chaney.
Who's she?
She's one of the Teals in Western Australia. She was the is it niece or?
Oh yes, the former senator. Dick.
Dick Cheney.
No, that's the American.
What's his name?
The one.
Yeah. Anyway, he was the Liberal guy and all that sort of stuff, and she actually got the seat. Yep. And she's actually said that this is what we've got to do. Now, I'm not convinced of it, but it's a very good idea, and I'm really pleased that the independents are actually taking the lead on it because I think to myself it is long overdue of us having a conversation about income tax in this country.
Friendly Geordie's had a big rant about that and basically said, the Teals are LNP by any other name.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I understand that argument and that sort of stuff, but I don't necessarily agree with it.
Okay. Just because we haven't had enough Sky News or Rowan Dean, did any of you guys like Laura Tingle when she was reporting for the 7:30 Reporters political correspondent?
I thought she was very good.
Yeah, I actually always thought she was a bit weak on detail. She's now She's
now the international affairs editor.
Yes. Yeah.
I think Chuck Tingle's probably better, but
Chuck Tingle.
Yeah, he writes gay novels.
Right.
With
come across him.
Amazingly lurid titles. Okay. Which is how I know about him. Okay. I have a friend who posts them quite often.
Yeah, through a friend, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Just just where I got this clip on Rowan Dean before, there was another one right beside it with him and one of his co-host nutters just going on about Laura Tingle had referred to Trump and the Epstein files. So you would be aware that Ghislaine Maxwell came out and said, oh, no,
Trump was innocent.
Trump's innocent.
And then swiftly got moved to a much nicer bit of accommodation. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool.
And, well,
I really wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't just wave her through. I reckon he'll give her a what do you call it? Pardon, that's exactly the words I was grabbing for. Thank you very much.
Sky News, nothing to see here, Scott. Just this is what you get over at Sky News. Here we go.
So she's criticising Trump there. She plays the Epstein card.
What?
Kind of accusing him of something to do with Epstein.
Dear.
Yet Ghislaine Maxwell came out this week and said very clearly there was nothing between them. Nothing.
we
She
always
never
knew.
saw
We
Trump
always knew
do
that.
anything wrong.
We always
There was
We always knew.
Yeah.
What?
Despite
and
the fact
Epstein,
that he's
what?
been, hang on, he wasn't found guilty. He was found culpable. I don't know. Anyway, the judge decided that he had, on the balance of probabilities, raped E. Jean Carroll.
Yes, and she sued him for defamation, I think.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And there have been a number of other credible accusations.
Yes. So, good examples, those clips, of the rabid nonsense going on over at Sky News. And that's what, dear listener, is the propaganda that's infecting our elderly community.
Mm-hmm.
It's astounding that a group with such little viewership can be so influential, but they provide talking points for the others. And idiots on ABC will then go to, politicians repeating lines from Sky News because they can't think of it themselves, and they think these guys have started a discourse that they have to finish. It's incredible. So, there, little Sky News rant. Got that off my chest. What else have I got here? Epstein card. Have you guys been keeping abreast of American democracy in Texas with the
Yes.
Yeah, I've been listening to that a lot on podcasts.
With Yul Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda?
No, Yul Qaeda.
Yul Qaeda? What's that? Who's he?
Yeah.
She?
Because, in America, they don't say you, they say Yol.
Yeah, Yol.
So it's Yul Qaeda.
Yul Qaeda.
It's the American Taliban.
So Texas has decided that it's just going to add 5 more congressional districts, and at the same time...
No, I thought they were redrawing the district boundaries.
No, I believe they're adding 5 as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So,
Because apparently Trump rang up the Texas governor and said, I need however many more seats in Texas.
yes. So I'm just reading an article from the BBC here. After Texas passed a redistricting measure that would create 5 more congressional seats,
Oh, okay.
favouring Republicans, Californian lawmakers hit back on Thursday by voting to redraw their state's maps. And they're going to add an extra 5 onto California to make up for the extra 5 that Texas has decided to create.
I think it's a reactive law, so it only comes into effect if Texas actually goes ahead.
Right.
And the Texas Democrats had ran away from the Texas government, whatever it is, whatever their seat of parliament is, so that they couldn't get quorum, so they couldn't pass the law.
Yes.
And Trump was saying that he was going to send the FBI out after these Democrats to pull them back so that they had to turn up. And they also wanted to pass a law because they're getting fined for every day they're not in Parliament.
Yeah, $500
and they were going to make it illegal for them to fundraise for that money.
Yes. So the Democrats in Texas who didn't like the idea and thought, well, let's just avoid turning up to Parliament to avoid a quorum so this doesn't happen, found themselves faced with arrest and basically under 24-hour guard as well if they left the building. So quite extraordinary scenes happening in Texas as they then not only add to the seats, of course, but draw the boundaries in such a way as to make it favourable for the Republicans. So California is threatening to do a similar thing in response, although it's going to be harder for them because they actually have laws that make it a bit more harder to do dodgy gerrymandering. So they've got more hoops to jump through. So
Although I think the law did pass today. Gavin Newsom signed some bill or other into.
Possibly just a stage of it, Joe.
Right.
I think there's a few hoops to.
Well, I mean, it has to go through a committee that agrees what the new lines are. So I think this merely allows them to go early to get the committee to do this.
Interesting problem though, Scott. Like, the Republicans playing dirty. Do you just sit back and hold the high moral ground, or do you go, well, you got to fight fire with fire?
I don't know. I've got a foot in both camps on that, because I think to myself they're probably better off holding the high ground and that type of thing and saying, well, we're not going to play that sort of bullshit. But then the other side of me says, well, you got to fight fire with fire just to get back at them. And I don't know when the hell Texas became so feral, because it used to be a purple state. Now it's gone deep red.
No, it's always been a purple state, but the problem is, so the cities are red. Cities are blue.
Gotcha.
And the countryside is red.
Yeah.
And the problem is the number of seats that the regional areas hold is greater than the number of seats that the cities hold.
So it's exactly like the gerrymander was here in Queensland for years.
Gerrymandering, yeah. I don't see a problem with reflexive laws. So you go, this law is only on the books, this law is only in effect when this is happening. And the second this stops happening, then we go back to.
Yep. We realise this is a bad idea, and we're only doing it because...
because the other side's done it first.
And, like whatever the terrorist act the various countries passed, the UK passed, the US passed, they should have all had sunset clauses on them.
Absolutely. They should have had sunset clauses on them.
Yeah. So because
I think it is ridiculous that the British government is actually out there trying to prosecute, what is it, support Palestine or
Palestine Action.
Palestine Action, It's just a ridiculous thing that these boomers are getting locked up.
Well, what's it say here? Republicans made Democrats sign permission slips to leave the Capitol, which would put them under 24/7 police watch. So that's the sort of stuff that was going on in Texas. Yes. Also, US government has taken a 10% stake in Intel. Did you see that one?
I did see that one.
So,
sounds like communism to me.
It's socialism when the Democrats do it. It's not socialism when the Republicans do it. It's as simple as that. I don't even know why they've taken 10% of the company or anything else. I couldn't tell you. And
more money.
Say again.
Make money.
Well, I'm not sure that Intel's the exact sort of company that you want to be making money out of right now, because it used to be I think it used to be one of the world's biggest companies, but over time it has lost a hell of a lot of its chip making capabilities to USMC and everything else. I just don't know whether or not Intel is going to be big in the future. I couldn't tell you.
Well, so now a guy in charge, Lip-Bu Tan of Intel, Trump met with Lip-Bu Tan on Friday, posed for a photo. The development follows a meeting between Tan and Trump earlier this month that was sparked by the US president's demand for the Intel chief's resignation over his ties to Chinese firms. And Trump says, quote, he walked in wanting to keep his job, and he ended up giving us $10 billion for the United States. So we picked up $10 billion, Trump said on Friday. So in his tweet, this is the Donald Trump tweet, it is my great honour to report that the United States of America now fully owns and controls 10% of Intel, a great American company that has an even more incredible future. I negotiated this deal with Lip-Bu Tan, the highly respected chief executive officer of the company. The United States paid nothing for these shares, and the shares are now valued at approximately $11 billion. This is a great deal for America and also a great deal for Intel. Building leading-edge semiconductors and chips, which is what Intel does, is fundamental to the future of our nation. Make America great again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So apparently the equity stake of $10 billion is about equal to the amount Intel set to receiving grants from the government under the Chips and Science Act to help fund the building of chip plants in the US. So the Chip Act, which may be, who knows, local US manufacturers went, oh, that might help us. Look at that. We're going to pick up $10 billion worth of sort of freebies here. Just got strong-armed by Trump and forced to hand over 10% of the company.
Which
God,
I can sort of understand where he's coming from. He wants to get something back for the money that's been spent on them. So,
well, he's a deal maker, isn't he?
Well, he reckons he's a deal maker.
What's happened, of course, with the whole CHIPS Act is it's forced China to just accelerate its chip manufacturing capacity, and they've come ahead in leaps and bounds. And
absolutely,
and so now Chinese businesses have dramatically increased their buying of chips from China rather than the US, and the idea of saving the American chip industry, it's actually accelerated its demise by accelerating the Chinese tech uptake. So it's completely backfired. So that's Donald Trump. There was an interview on Late Night Live with John Menadue of Pearls and Wisdom, and just talking about his life and stuff. And he was complaining about the emphasis in Australia on America and covering American politics, and how we seem to know more about American politics than we know about Australian politics. But and we should be, knowing more about Indonesia and Philippines and other, our neighbouring countries we should be taking an interest in.
Yeah, but they don't speak English.
Yeah, well,
or even Pidgin.
Yes.
Like the Americans do.
Yeah, well, the Philippines, they speak English.
Yeah, the Philippines speak Tagalog, don't they?
So, Tagalog.
Yeah.
In addition to English.
I think it's their lingua franca. It's probably their legal language.
Oh.
It's a mixture of Spanish, whatever the indigenous Philippines, and English is.
I thought it was just native English in the Philippines because that's why they had so many call centres and things happening there.
Well, the Americans took it over and all that sort of stuff. That's where the English has come from. And I was also talking to a Filipino girl today. She was doing my income tax return. She said that they are taught English at school. So they start to learn to speak English as soon as they start school, and by the time they end up in secondary school, English is the only language they speak in the schools.
Right.
So they do speak their own indigenous language as well, but English is the preferred language of the country.
So I heard that from John Menadue, and I was sort of conscious we do harp on a lot about what's going on in America, but it is the all-powerful former hegemon which is collapsing before our eyes. Like it's hard to resist commenting on it when it is so influential on us. So, and let's face it, it's got the humour aspect as well with the craziness. So anyway, that was if you're interested in John Menadue's interview on Late Night Live, I thought it was pretty good, even though I'm not a big fan of David Marr. Where was I? Chips, yes. Still in America, the head of the US Defense Intelligence Agency and two other senior officers have been fired recently. Scott and Joe, did you hear that at all? The head of the US Defense Intelligence Agency.
No, well, only from a post you put up, yes. But.
Right. So, and the reason is, it's coincidental, perhaps, but he produced a preliminary assessment that said that the US strikes on Iran, remember those bombs?
Bunker busting bombs.
Probably only set back the Iranian nuclear program by just a few months. So once the intelligence director came out and said that, which was completely contrary to what Trump had said in the days afterwards, you're sacked, mate. Off you go.
Well, like
It's like the head of Labor Bureau Statistics. You know, she was sacked because they didn't like he didn't like the numbers that he got.
Yes. Yeah. What is going to? How rapidly can this country collapse when anybody who tells the truth about what's happening gets sacked by this authoritarian regime? Let's stop calling it a democratic country. It is an authoritarian regime.
It's definitely moving towards an authoritarian regime, and everyone called it out prior. Well, not everyone, but certainly people who were watching Project 2025 were calling it out.
Yeah. So
that it was all about an authoritarian takeover of the US.
Yeah. So, yes, the authoritarian regime of the United States just sacking essentially public servants.
Pete Hegseth's pastor?
Um,
who's been very vocal about women shouldn't have the vote, and I'm not sure what other things he wants to repeal, but no-fault divorce is also what he's after. But he's basically pushing for the American government to roll back all these basic human rights.
Right. Well, Pete Hegseth is a former Fox News host, eminently qualified to consider these issues.
Well, he's also a drunk too.
He was wasn't he a news reporter for the US press? The Army Press Corps or whatever it's called.
Possibly, I don't know.
Because there was a big thing about him versus Kamala's running mate, who was
what was his
reservist?
Yes,
sergeant major or something.
Right.
And then I thought Pete Hegseth was, I've got more experience, and it turned out, in the press corps.
Right, of course. In the battlefield of the press room.
Yes.
Shameless. We bang on about Trump all the time. Here was a description which was a great, as accurate a description of Donald Trump as you'll ever see. We forget about these things, but it's good to put it into context occasionally. On Donald Trump. An ill-fitting suit, the sleaze of a con man, the cowardice of a draft dodger, the gluttony of a parasite, the racism of a Klansman, the sexism of a back-alley creep, the ignorance of a barstool drunk, and the greed of a hedge fund ghoul, all spray-painted orange and paraded like a prize hog at a county fair. Not a president, not even a man, just the diseased distillation of everything this country swears it isn't, but has always been. Arrogance dressed up as exceptionalism, stupidity passed off as common sense, cruelty sold as toughness, greed exalted as ambition, and corruption worshipped like gospel. It is America's shadow-made flesh, a rotting pumpkin idol, proving that when a nation kneels before money, power, and spite, it doesn't just lose its soul. It shits out this bloated obscenity and calls it a leader. Oh, I wish I could write like that. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, as was said during Trump's last term, Trump is not the problem, Trump is a symptom.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Great writing. British democracy. We mentioned people being arrested for Palestine action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Had you seen it before you saw my notes about the guy wearing the T-shirt saying plasticine action?
Yes, I read the article.
Maybe you sent it to me. Maybe that's where I got it from. And the T-shirt said plasticine action, and underneath, we oppose AI-generated animation. And various people have been wearing that T-shirt and getting arrested and hauled off, and then the police, in the cold light of day, looking at the T-shirt and going, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, but we knew what you meant,
yes.
So we're going to arrest you anyway.
Yeah, well, I had to let him go. So,
yes,
according to one report I was reading here, where this guy said, I got arrested and got hauled into this temporary place where they were holding people. A large group of protesters cheered us as people were brought in by officers. They were all cheering us, and I was cheekily pointing to my T-shirt and going, "Plasticine action," to everyone. So they were taking photos of me, and everyone was laughing at how silly it was that I was getting arrested for being a plasticine terrorist. After 5 minutes later, the arresting officer approached him again. He said, "I've got good news and I've got bad news." I said, "What's the good news?" And he said, "I'm de-arresting you." And I said, "What's the bad news?" And he said, "It's going to be really embarrassing for me." And then I walked free. There we go. Plasticine action.
Not that coppers are dyslexic in any way.
Israel, Gaza, let's turn our attention there to be depressed again. I mean, of all the shocking stories and terrible things, this one on the face of it just doesn't seem as bad. There's something gut-wrenching about this simple act that they did where the Israeli army has uprooted thousands of olive trees in the West Bank village of, I'm not even going to pronounce it, in just the past 3 days as part of collective punishment campaign against Palestinian residents of the village. Israeli media reported on the 24th of August. So
collective punishment is illegal under international law.
So somebody in the village is causing a problem for the settlers, and as a result, the army has come in and bulldozed thousands of old olive trees belonging to this village. Just, the atrocities against kids and all the rest, obviously worse, but just these trees that are, some of them, many of them hundreds of years old, some olive trees can be over 1,000 years old, deeply tied to Palestinian identity, representing steadfastness and their historical connection to the land. And there's a picture of a woman who's just hugging this poor tree that's been mangled. And just complete arseholes, just going in and just destroying these trees that have taken centuries to produce. Just complete bastards. Yeah. What does Caitlin Johnson say? The IDF has admitted to uprooting thousands of olive trees. It's not the most shocking or evil thing that Israel does to the Palestinians, but it does speak to what its true intentions are in a unique way. Similar to the way white people killed off the bison to help eliminate American Indians, killing olive trees deprives Palestinians of an important means of earning a living and strikes at an important aspect of Palestinian identity and culture. Olive trees can live for thousands of years. People with a strong attachment to the land treasure and protect them, while the Israelis who claim to be indigenous to the area are destroying them and replacing them with highly flammable foreign plants. You can tell who the actual indigenous population is by watching their behaviour. Good point. They claim to be the indigenous custodians of the land, yet they're the ones bulldozing thousands of ancient olive trees. Assholes. Meanwhile, bit of a stoush between Netanyahu and the Australian government. Netanyahu was on Shari Markson's Sky News program. He was on there for quite a while. 16-minute interview. That's got a lot, isn't it? Like
It is a hell of a long time.
Little old Australian Sky News stuck over here in the middle of nowhere, and Netanyahu, allows 16 minutes for an interview. And
I think friendly press corps, take advantage when you can.
Yeah. Blasted Albanese, and he said, quote, this is Netanyahu. When the worst terrorist organisation on earth, which murdered women, raped them, beheaded men and burnt babies alive in front of their parents and took hundreds of hostages, when these people congratulate the Prime Minister of Australia, you know something is wrong.
When did the IDF congratulate the Prime Minister?
Yes, exactly. You know, further on he says that Netanyahu says Albanese, Macron and Keir Starmer and other world leaders, quote, are actually rewarding terror. They are saying it doesn't matter what horrors you people do. This is Netanyahu who is committing horrors.
On a daily basis.
Indeed. So, as Caitlin Johnson said, right-wingers are like, no, you don't understand. Israel is protecting Western civilization. If we don't help Israel genocide the Palestinians and starve their children and burn their babies and bomb their hospitals and demolish their cities, one day we could wind up ruled by evil, murderous savages. like the real news mainstream that I've given you so far was the Courier Fail headline, front page, ignoring the march. The nutters on Sky News, Netanyahu with Shari Markson. And we have entered this dystopian world where the best, most truthful, most factually correct examination of what's going on comes from the Batuta Advocate. I'll read a fair bit of it because it's supposed to be satire, but it's absolutely spot on. Headline.
Yeah.
Liberals criticise Australian diplomats for not licking the boots of foreign governments that talk shit about us. Australian diplomats are facing fierce criticism from within Parliament House for not rolling over and letting more important governments talk shit about us. The federal opposition is furious this week after the people that have been elected to represent Australia on the world stage refuse to let our democracy be ridiculed by an unhinged foreign government. This comes after the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took a break from starving children to death and bombing hospitals in Gaza and instead dedicated a week to lashing Australia for not unconditionally supporting him in doing such things without any clear military objectives other than to cause as much pain and dehumanising trauma as possible. Netanyahu said Australia's decision to recognise a Palestinian state, which is actually not quite as radical as Australian media is making it out, given the fact that the UK, France and Canada have already done it themselves, was an appeasement to the terrorist group known as Hamas. He went on to label Australian Prime Minister as weak and compared Australia's position to Adolf Hitler's invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1938. When the Prime Minister Albanese did not bite back, the Australian Health Minister has labelled Netanyahu's comments as ridiculous. The Home Affairs Minister offered slightly more punch by remarking that strength is not measured by how many people you can blow up or how many children you can leave hungry. Netanyahu then doubled on his comments by saying the PM's reputation was forever tarnished by the weakness. While this kind of shit has passed off Australian voters, while this kind of shit talk has pissed off Australian voters from every corner of the political spectrum, Netanyahu's comments have been validated by prominent voices within the Liberal Party who seem to agree that Australia's own interests and our own sense of dignity is not as important as the feelings of the Israeli Prime Minister. Senator James Patterson says the Home Affairs Minister's response to Netanyahu was incredibly reckless and inflammatory, which he should, quote, frankly apologise for. That's the Batuta Advocate, a sensational rundown of what Netanyahu said, how the government responded, and just what a shit show the opposition is in demanding that we should apologise to Netanyahu. A great piece. That's the best piece of Australian journalism I've read all week. And it was the Batuta Advocate. That's what I've reached.
I've watched, the Batuta Advocate released a few videos and that sort of stuff on Prime, which I've watched, and they were very good. They had, they were looking into the Hillsong Church and everything else that was You know, it was really I thought it was excellent journalism. Despite the fact it was all played up as jokes and everything else. It was very good.
Hillsong Church. There's a conference going on the Gold Coast, which is kind of Hillsongish.
Oh, really?
Yes, this time, but with a Jewish bent, as an Israeli bent, an anti-Semitism bent. So Gillian Segal and a bunch of other notables are appearing at a summit against anti-Semitism on the Gold Coast.
Right.
And a whole bunch of local government politicians have been invited to attend an all expenses paid event on the Gold Coast that's coming up a week or so. And of course, Tom Tate is hosting that. And some of the councillors invited have been shocked by the money that's been thrown at people. So, to get them to attend. Councillor Gideon Cordova in Tasmania told Michael West Media his personal reaction was that, quote, "We're talking big money. In my 6 years on local council in Tasmania, I've never come across such a tactic by a lobby group with such a wide-reaching cash splash. Not developers, not miners, not big salmon farms. They seem to have more funding available for lobbying than those groups." So yeah, they're basically getting local government councillors to come to this anti-Semitism convention on the Gold Coast and get them to sign up to the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which we've already discussed previously, basically doesn't allow you to criticise Israel or Israeli policies because it conflates that as being anti-Semitism. And, at a all expenses paid junket on the Gold Coast. And then they're going to rank councils on an anti-Semitism index. So that's what's coming up on the Gold Coast. Guess who also is going to be talking there? Friends of the show who have been with us a while would remember the fun that we had with the Noosa Temple of Satan and Tom Tate and his spiritual advisor, Sue Baines. And remember how I found out that there was a prayer room at the council's offices and got permission to hold a prayer group there, and then afterwards told them that it was the Noosa Temple of Satan that would be attending, and suddenly the permission was refused.
Revoked.
Yes. And Sue Baines was the one who was his advisor. She'd done some tramping in the Home of the Arts complex on the Gold Coast and had detected evil spirits and had performed a type of exorcism, which Robin and I thought was unfair, that, spirits of all shapes and sizes and denominations should be allowed to the Home of the Arts complex. So we conducted a counter spell ceremony under a bridge like trolls, and it actually got quite a lot of coverage, and she ended up having to close down the prayer room, and that was a lot of fun. That was a fun part of that whole exercise. She of course, will be speaking at this anti-Semitism summit. So,
yes, because Christians have never been anti-Semitic.
That's right. And there's nothing that a hardcore Pentecostalist Christian doesn't like more than supporting the Israeli state. Yeah. To finish off with, Joe, you sent me one about a toddler dying of a circumcision operation.
Yes. Died after a genital mutilation.
Yes. Wasn't actually clear whether it was for religious reasons, that one, was it?
No, but he had been given morphine for the operation. So at least he wasn't in pain, but he hadn't been adequately monitored.
Yeah.
And if anyone knows about opiates, basically they depress your breathing. So child stopped breathing and passed away.
Yeah, he was 2. He had an 8-month-old brother who did
Yes.
not have any
morphine. Hopefully they
He's-
had local anaesthetic.
I don't think so. I don't
I think
know.
best practice is local anaesthetic.
Yeah.
Because despite the claims, historically, there's a documentary called American Circumcision that describes it, and said up until relatively recently they went, infants can't feel pain. So they would regularly do operations, minor operations with no pain relief, including ripping off their foreskin. And now that their best practice is to do a nerve block, but even so.
I know from a personal anecdote that in the Jewish community in Brisbane, they don't sedate young boys.
Oh,
And
yeah. I mean, in theory, it's supposed to be the Mahal who pinches off the foreskin with his thumbnail and then
yes,
sucks the blood off, which is
Yes.
how a large number of New York Jews ended up with congenital syphilis.
yes, indeed. But here today in Brisbane, when I say today, I mean it was a couple of years ago. Some people I know, Jewish, and hysterical scenes where the rabbi performs it without anaesthetic of any type, and then a year or two later they repeated the whole exercise for the next son, and it was all traumatic again. It's like, you idiot bastards! Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know what's going to happen, and you're still signing up your kids for this.
And can't you let them choose at an age where they're old enough to choose, rather than doing it against their will?
Yeah.
Well, I think the Jewish religion demands it on the 8th day of life, don't they?
Isn't this is why St. Paul was so successful?
Yeah, because he went around and said you don't need.
Because up until then, people thought, well, adults were having to get circumcised to join the faith, and he created a faith where you didn't have to be circumcised, and people went, whew, that's a lot more appealing.
Yeah.
And you can eat pork.
Yes. And shellfish.
Yes.
And cheese.
Yeah.
On your burger.
Yeah. Just take an existing religion and dress it up a bit and take away some of the bad parts. And, there you go. That was St. Paul.
Well, they realised that food-based guilt trips weren't as effective as sex-based guilt trips, and so they just concentrated on those instead. All
Very
right.
true.
We're close enough to the end. I think I did come across something, but I didn't get time to go into it fully. But John Mearsheimer, mentioned before in this podcast, analyst of world geopolitics, on a podcast basically talking about the death rates in Ukraine between the Russians and the Ukrainians, and saying that the Russians had been conducting a very, very clever operation where they were not really so much as seeking to gain ground as just seeking to kill Ukrainians, and that the sort of ratio of Ukrainians to Russians killed was extremely high. And so I will try and find that again and clip it and do all the rest of it. But yeah, try and find that. You guys have anything pressing you want to say? We might wrap it up.
Only that apparently that now I don't know if this is accurate, but I have heard that the US Supreme Court is now going to look at the Obergefell decision, which was the one that allowed gay marriage across the country. And Hillary Clinton has advised everyone that's in a long-term gay relationship to go out and get married now before it becomes illegal.
Wow.
Which is one of the things I thought to myself that probably the next decision that's on the chopping block.
But strangely enough, Loving versus Virginia is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I know, because
Which one's that one?
Virginia would be, that was the
Interracial.
interracial marriage. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay.
You know,
The
and that's
fact that
because
Clarence Thomas is on the
has got
Supreme Court.
and he's got a white wife. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
He's a misogynist.
yeah.
As well as a misogynist.
Yeah.
It'd be quite possibly be one of the first ones to vote in favour of overturning that possibility. Like some of these people.
Well, you think he wants to get rid of his wife?
Well, he'd say, in future it shouldn't be allowed, and come up with some
Right.
rationalisation. These people, they will rationalise anything and justify anything. So, wouldn't surprise me.
Well,
I mean,
you're on.
we see all the time black people, gay people, immigrants, promoting Trump
Yeah.
shamelessly. So why not a Supreme Court justice promoting something that on the face of it is not in his interest? So thinking, well, it won't apply to me because I'm already married and I don't care about our future people. So wouldn't surprise me in the least.
That really wouldn't surprise me either. It's just that I just think to myself they've completely lost the plot. The US Supreme Court is done as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that authoritarian regime has completely taken over in the White House.
Yeah.
Democracy's finished, and we just sit on the sidelines and with our popcorn. And
It certainly
observe
looks
the
like
shenanigans.
democracy is finished. It's just
I still think Biden should have taken advantage of the loophole that said any official act was above the law and
shot
taken
the
out.
prick.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
I think he should have taken him and Vance, because you can't shoot one of them and the other one won't actually rise.
Oh no! Sorry, not the president. No, I think he should have shot the Supreme Court, taken a couple of the justices out, and went, well, you said I'm above the law. Anything I do is legal.
Right,
Fine,
right.
here you go. I think they'd change their mind very quickly if that was the case.
Yeah, I don't know they would have went that far, but anyway, next week I'm definitely away. I'm in far north Queensland, lying around at Mission Beach.
Lucky
So
you.
that'll be me.
Yeah.
I'm away next
You're
week
gonna
as well.
You're going to be
Dodging
flying
crocodiles.
over me, not coming down to see me, I take it.
Yes, you're in not a flyover state, but a flyover town, Scott.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, you can always drive up to see Trevor.
So it's
Not that far.
Mission
from
Beach,
Mackay to
Mission Beach, it's around about 12
2.5
hours or something.
yeah, it's a way
Where's
fair way.
Mission Beach?
It's near Tully, so it's about an hour and a half short of Cairns. How long would it take you to
Right.
drive to Cairns?
Cairns is around about 12 hours.
Okay, 10 hours.
Yeah.
I'll just see you in Brisbane one day.
Yeah, I'm going to be. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you know when I'm coming down there off here.
Okay. All right. Thank you, listeners. See you in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.
And it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from him.
Good night.